105 or 120 reported, and then you came back and there were 0. This shows that you went back another day during the afternoon when they said people would be there, and they told you that most kids come in the morning. The previous time they had said most kids come in the afternoon. Are you going to refer that for any sort of a review or any of the other schools that you found?
Yes, all the Category 3 schools have been referred to ODE, and we have also...
Dave, 1 and 2 are what we're referring to.
And I was about to talk about that. We specify in our conclusion on each individual school whether it has been referred.
Okay.
So yeah, the answer is there's further work needed here.
What are the implications for taxpayers? Do some of these schools need to pay back money that they've gotten from the state?
I can't conclude that from the work that we did here. The absence on October 1st, or where we went back and looked at a second time to try to test the veracity of representations were made to us, it isn't enough to conclude that a particular dollar amount would be owed. What is certain is that there's enough holes in this bucket that you probably can't fill it up faster than it leaks.
In your view, is this a failure of the administrations of these individual schools or of ODE or of both?
You know, we found some schools that were doing pretty good on their reporting. Their data was accurate. So obviously it's possible to do well. I think there is plenty of blame to go around. I want to emphasize, I don't think I can emphasize enough, that ODE under the current statutory scheme has some handcuffs on. And there may be reasons for that historically, but we need to really review who has what responsibilities. Certainly at the local level, where we have failures, there's responsibility for the local administration as well. Plenty of blame to go around.
And who do you think is hurt by this? Is this should this be of concern just to families connected to these individual charter schools or citizens in general?
This is a problem for Ohio from a bunch of standpoints. As an auditor, I'm worried anytime I see money that's being spent where I can't tell whether it's being properly spent. But beyond that, these charter schools are not there just for the kids that go there. These charter schools are there because we want Ohio that has educated kids, that has kids that become adults that are protected, they're productive members of society. And whether it's a failing charter school or a failing public school, we all have an incredible interest in this. The health of our economy, the productivity of our citizens, all is tied up in the performance of our education system. And one of the reasons why I so appreciate Senator Lehner being here today and her long career in public education.
Can you talk about what the investigators did find when they went to schools that had no students? Were there still teachers there? Was there still equipment, desks, and everything, just with nobody there?
There's not a one answer fits all. So, and there was only one school that we went to that had a 0. There was always staff there. The schools were not locked, and they didn't go in dark. But the report will detail what we saw. Jack.
Jim.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You mentioned that these were all dropout recovery schools. Was that by design, or is that just how it worked out under the haphazard statistical analysis?
What was the first part of the question?
You said that these were all dropout recovery schools?
No, just in the category 1.
Okay, I apologize.
So we had lots. We had dropout recovery programs. We had the traditional brick and mortar public school, charter school. And we also had blended learning. We're all represented here. Interestingly, another thing that we found on blended learning, you have to, under the law, have it in your agreement that you're going to do that. So you have to plan to do it. You can't do it retroactively and say, oh, and we've got computers here, so we've got blended learning. You have to have that as part of your contract with your sponsor. what we found in reviewing these contracts is that many schools include that as just a boilerplate paragraph that the school can have blended learning, and yet in some cases we found it was in the contract as a boilerplate that they didn't do blended learning. And I think in at least one, help me out here, Marty, we did have instances where they had blended learning, but it wasn't in the contract, so legally they weren't even supposed to be doing that. It's a bit of a mess.
And is this sample large enough that you could extrapolate from it and say that if you had done the same thing to every charter school in the state, that you would probably come up with the same percentages?
I don't think so. This was a little less than 10% of the charters, and so to extrapolate that would be a little bit much. On the other hand, I would be very surprised if we saw a significant deviation from what we saw here. Because it's a haphazard sample, in auditing, when we do a sample, if we find problems with the sample, that is a key to go on and do further investigation. And that's the main value of it here.